What's up guys, it's Eric from Rare Candy and welcome back to another deck and battle here on PTCGO, and today we're actually going to be taking a look at a little bit of an older archetype. That's going to be Solgaleo GX, but it's actually gained some new exciting cards from the most recent Ultra Prism set that I think breathed some new life into this archetype. So Solgaleo GX actually has been around for quite some time, and if you've been following this channel for a while, you've probably heard me mention before, I absolutely love Solgaleo GX. I just love the entire design of the card and just how it functions in general. But I think for the longest time it's really struggled to find the right partners. Back when it first came out, we had Lurantis GX, which people used to try to power it up. We also had the Baby Rayquaza that came out of Guardians Rising for some energy acceleration, but I think it's just always struggled a little bit to find the right cards to really pair with it. But Ultra Prism has given us some new tools to work with, so we're going to try yet again and see if Solgaleo has some new promise now that this set has come out. So let's look at the deck and see what it's all about. So if you're unfamiliar with Solgaleo GX, it is a 250 hit point stage 2 GX, which means this thing is an absolute tank. Very little is going to knock this thing out in one hit outside of like fire decks that can hit you for weakness, but everything else is probably going to have to two-shot you. But everything on this card is pretty solid. If you look at its ability, Ultra Road, once during your turn before you attack me, switch your active Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon. And at first glance, I think a lot of maybe newer players might look at an ability like this and think, that's neat, that's whatever, though. It doesn't seem like a big deal. And this ability is really so simple, but it's absolutely one of the best parts about this card. Just being able to freely control whatever is in your active position at all times is a very simple ability, yes, but I think it is one that's super impactful. You never have to discard your energy to retreat, especially with Solgaleo GX, which discards its own energy every time it attacks. You can basically freely move out of the active spot and basically ensures your board has mobility at all times. You always have a way to promote whatever you want after you play a Guzma as well, which makes that card very, very good in this deck as well. So the ability, like I said, it's very simple and at first glance doesn't look like a lot, but I think it's absolutely one of the best things about this card. It's a very, very, very good ability. So its main attack though, Sunsteel Strike, is also pretty strong. For 2 metal on a colorless is 230, and you discard all energy from this Pokemon. So that's a lot of damage. You're going to be one-shotting basically everything that's popular in the current format. Now of course stage 2 GXs, other than Gardevoir, you won't knock out in one hit, but really there's not that many stage 2 GXs that are seeing play. Some people play Solgaleo GX here and there, some people play Decidueye here and there, but generally speaking these decks aren't very popular, so most of the time Sunsteel Strike is going to be taking you one-hit knockouts, and you don't really need to worry about something like Choice Band or any other damage modifiers. So Sunsteel Strike, just a super, super strong attack. Like I said, in conjunction with Ultra Road as well, every time you discard your energy, you can use Ultra Road to, get out of the active spot and promote a different Pokemon as well. But then the other part of this card that is just so good is the GX move, Soul Burst GX, where just a single metal energy, search your deck for up to 5 energy cards and attach them to your Pokemon in any way that you like, then shuffle your deck. So turn 2, you Rare Candy into Solgaleo GX, use Soul Burst GX, and you can set up your board for most of the game just with this one single attack. So getting out 5 energy is crazy. You already have 1 energy on your active Solgaleo, you can throw 2 more on there, then 3 on another Pokemon, maybe like another Cosmog or something like that, to set up another Solgaleo GX for at some point in the game as well. So one thing that's actually really important to note too is that it actually doesn't specify what kind of energies. So that means we can even search out special energies, which we do play in this list as well. So Soul Burst GX, absolutely fantastic GX move, one of my favorite ones that's currently in the game, and one of the things that makes Solgaleo GX tick as a Pokemon. So we're playing 3 of them, but we are also playing one of the other Solgaleo back from Guardians Rising, and there's a couple reasons we're playing this one. So first of all, it is a 1 prize attacker. Your opponent's only getting 1 prize as opposed to 2 whenever they knock this thing out. But, discarding your energy every time you want to take a knockout can actually be very inefficient, especially against 1 prize attacking decks like Empoleon or Greninja or Garchomp, or things like that. So discarding 3 energy to take 1 prize over and over and over is very inefficient and can run you out of energy potentially. So this Solgaleo is actually a great Pokemon to use in these types of matchups. So it has this attack, Fangs of the Sun, for 2 metal on a colorless does 170, and this Pokemon can't use Fangs of the Sun during your next turn. So this is actually a fantastic move. You're going to knock out basically every relevant, 1 prize attacker in the game, and also you're hitting 170, which means you can knock out Tapu Lele's as well. And so you guys might be thinking, this Pokemon can't use the attack every turn though, so that's a little bit of a downside, but you have to remember when a Pokemon leaves the active spot, any effects that are currently placed on it are actually removed. So that means if we use Fangs of the Sun and then use Ultra Road to move our Solgaleo out of the active spot and then retreat back into it, we can actually use Fangs of the Sun multiple times in a row, which is actually pretty good as well. Now it does have another attack, Shining Arrow, which isn't too relevant, but it does give you the option to snipe 50 damage somewhere, but most of the time we are just going for one-hit knockouts in this deck anyways, but you do have the option to use it if need be. So Solgaleo is our main attacker of the deck. We're not really playing many other attackers. Everything else is basically just support Pokemon. So one of the new support Pokemon that we got out of Ultra Prism, which I think is one of the key cards in this deck, is going to be the new Solgaleo Prism Star. It's one of these new Prism Star cards. You can only have one of the same name in your deck, and when they get discarded, they go into the Lost Zone instead of the discard pile. But the reason we're playing this is for this Radiant Star attack. For just a single Metal Energy, for each of your opponent's Pokemon in play, attach a Metal Energy from your discard pile to your Pokemon in any way that you like. So that means, after we've used Sunsteel Strike a few times and we're out of energy, we can pivot into the Solgaleo Prism Star and use Radiant Star to set up our board entirely again, threatening the last knockout of the game. And also in the case of this Solgaleo GX deck, typically in the past, it's really just struggled at closing out games. You usually have a super strong mid game where you take 2 back-to-back GX knockouts and you take a lot of prizes very quickly, but then you usually run out of energy and you can kind of struggle and flounder around sometimes trying to power up another Solgaleo GX before the game ends. So Solgaleo Prism Star really helps out with this. We're not playing the Baby Rayquaza as well. I've seen some people play that in the past and even alongside this new Solgaleo, but really, honestly, all you need is one Radiant Star most of the times, and then your board is usually good to go at that point. Radiant Star is just a much more flexible attack than the attack on the Baby Rayquaza. Also has a much more manageable attack cost. Rayquaza needs double Colorless Energy. Solgaleo Prism Star only needs a Metal Energy, so it's much more consistent to get off. And Solgaleo Prism Star has a whopping 160 hit points for just a basic Pokemon. So I think Solgaleo Prism Star is just far and away better than the old Rayquaza. I don't even think you need it at this point anymore. But I think there is a case to be made. If you do want to play one of the old Rayquaza, I think that is worth mentioning as well, just in case you prize your Prism Star. But in my experience, all you really need is the one Prism Star. It's usually enough to close out the game. So next up we're playing one copy of Mr. Mime for its Bench Barrier ability, prevent all damage done to your bench Pokemon by attacks. So Solgaleo GX is actually kind of a slow deck getting going. If everything goes perfect and according to plan, you're going to Soul Burst GX on turn 2, so that means you're not even attacking and doing damage until turn 3 of the game, which is actually pretty bad, especially when you have something like Buzzwole GX in the current format, which puts on a ton of early game pressure and can spread a lot of damage around and pick off your bench Pokemon. So Mr. Mime very good in these situations. Also, other decks like Golisopod and some Garbodor variants run Tapu Koko, which can spread damage and set up all these knockouts on your Pokemon before you really get set up. So Mr. Mime just really good in these certain situations. But we are also playing one copy of Giurleo EX as well. Prevent all effects of your opponent's attacks, except damage done to each of your Pokemon that has any Metal Energy attached to them. So there's actually a few reasons we are running Giurleo EX. So if our opponent is playing something like an Espeon EX, they actually can't de-evolve our Solgaleos that have any Metal Energy on them. If we go against something like Greninja, which is actually a terrible matchup for this deck, I have to admit, Giratina promo is something you should consider if Greninja is popular in your area. But even if you're not running the Giratina promo, Giurleo does still help a little bit in that matchup, because if you have a Metal Energy on your Giurleo and a Metal Energy on one of your Solgaleos, Mystic Heart will prevent Shadow Stitching from affecting those Pokemon. So typically in that matchup, being able to not use Ultra Road is actually really bad. So Giurleo is going to help with that as well, shutting off Shadow Stitching. But also some other things as well, things like Espeon GX's Confusion, it'll prevent things like that. So just a lot of different Pokemon in the current format that are a little bit annoying that Giurleo can actually prevent against. So and it's also a decent little backup attacker if need be as well. So Solgaleo GX discards its energy every time it attacks. So Giurleo sometimes actually can be a decent backup attacker for a DCE and Metal, which we both play in this list. Can do 120. And during your next turn, this Pokemon's attack only does 60 damage, but thanks to Ultra Road, we can actually get around that and use Soul Blaster to do 120 every turn if need be. So sometimes Giurleo is a half-decent backup attacker, but it's mainly for that Mystic Heart ability. Alrighty, then just rounding out the Pokemon list, we have, of course, 2 copies of Solgaleo GX for that Wonder Tag ability, and since we do play a ton of energy acceleration in this deck in the form of Solgaleo Prism Star and Solgaleo GX, and double colorless energies, we do have access to Energy Drive as well. So going on to our trainer cards, starting with our supporters, we are playing a ton of Shuffle Draw in this deck. So we're playing 3 of the new Cynthia, which actually is one of my favorite cards to put in this deck now that we have Ultra Prism. So just a nice form of Shuffle Draw. Shuffle your hand to your deck, draw 6. A lot of times you don't want to play Sycamore in this type of deck since there are a ton of moving pieces that you sometimes don't really want to discard. So Cynthia is a great new reliable form of draw power for the deck, but of course we're still playing 3 copies of N, forcing both players to shuffle in and draw equal to the amount of prize cards they have left, so definitely a good card. And we're also playing 1 copy of Hollis as another good shuffle draw option, I think, for Solgaleo GX. Shuffle your hand into your deck and draw 4 cards, but if you've used your GX attack already, you get to draw 7 cards instead. So ideally we're using Soulburst GX on turn 2 anyways, so Hala is a great card in the mid to late game that we can potentially abuse. We're only playing the 1 copy just because we don't really want to see it in the early game very often. We would generally prefer Cynthia or N, so we're just playing the 1 just so we have access to it at some point as well. But even though I just mentioned we don't really want to Sycamore a lot of the times, we are still playing 1 copy of the card, discard your hand, draw 7, just because the draw power from this card is incredible. Especially if we have a low hand size and we can play down our hand pretty low. Sycamore is still an incredibly strong card, but generally we are preferring shuffle draw options, but we're still playing the 1 just in case we want to grab it with a Tapu Lele or something like that too. And we're also playing 2 copies of Skyla. Search your deck for a training card, reveal it, put it into our hand. So looking at the item cards in this deck, which we'll get to in a second, there's a lot of different cards we would like to search out. A lot of times on turn 2, all you need is the rare candy or the heavy ball to complete your rare candy Solgaleo GX combo that you need to start getting set up. So sometimes it's just better to have Skyla as opposed to a normal draw supporter to ensure that you can get your Soul Burst off pretty quickly. Also in the mid to late game we have a lot of other items that we want to see like max potions and field blowers, so sometimes just playing Skyla is better than a draw supporter. And 2 copies of Bridget, of course, just to get set up and get our basics onto our board as quick as possible. And 3 Guzma just to choose what we want to take knockouts on. Guzma in particular is super strong in this deck because we have Ultra Roads, so we can always ensure that the right Pokemon we want is in the active spot, even having to switch with the Guzma sometimes in other decks, which is kind of a bad thing for you. Sometimes you're forced to promote things you don't want to, but like I said, thanks to Ultra Road, we really don't have to worry about that. Alright, so next up, going on to the item cards. For Ultra Ball, pretty standard. For Rare Candy, pretty standard, just to ensure we can get set up as quick as possible. We are playing some other ball cards that we're playing 2 copies of Heavy Ball. So search your deck for a Pokemon with a retreat cost of 3 or more, reveal it, put it into your hand. So with Heavy Ball, we can actually grab Solgaleo GX, Cosmoem, and the new Solgaleo Prism Star. So it just gives us a couple of extra outs to drawing into what we need to get that turn 2 Solburst GX as quick as possible. So, and since we're playing Skyla, sometimes just being able to get Heavy Ball instead of Ultra Ball is better because we don't have to discard resources from our hand whenever we use Heavy Ball as well. And speaking of ball cards, we're also playing 1 copy of Nest Ball. Search your deck for a basic, put it onto your bench. So this is good because one of the problems with Solgaleo is sometimes you can pull off the turn 2 Soul Burst, but sometimes you might not have a lot of bench Pokemon to even accelerate energy too. So Nest Ball just helps with that and ensure that we can have our bench filled up and have what we need in play. Also playing 2 copies of Max Potion, heal all damage from one of your Pokemon if you do discard all energy from that Pokemon, but luckily with Solgaleo GX we discard our energy with our attack, so we'll do 230, take a knockout, our opponent will swing on us, and usually they won't knock us out in 1 hit because we are an incredible tanky Pokemon, we have 250 hit points, so more than likely they'll swing on us for let's just say 120 damage on average, so we can Max Potion all of that off and then just keep going and resetting up our board at some point. So Max Potion just has a lot of synergy in this type of deck. And we're also playing a pretty thick count of Field Blower in this list to discard our opponent's tool cards and stadiums. So there's a couple decks in particular. Field Blower is especially good against Garbodor variants, are going to be the big one. Shutting off our ability to use Ultra Road is actually pretty bad. Ultra Road is kind of one of the best parts about this deck. Like I mentioned, it seems like a very simple ability, but not having access to it really is bad, because after we use Sunsteel Strike, our Solgaleo is going to be stuck in the active spot otherwise. So being able to discard tool cards off our opponent's guard odors to allow us to use our abilities is going to be super crucial. Parallel City is also a kind of a problematic card for this deck. Like I said earlier, we really want a full bench, that way we have a lot of different targets to accelerate energy to with Soul Burst GX. But also just other things too, like getting rid of choice bands on Pokemon. Against certain decks, you know, like Zoroark variants, they're going to have to 3-shot us if they don't have choice bands. So Field Blower just kind of helps us in those situations to, you know, prevent our opponents from knocking us out as easily as possible. And then just 2 copies of Super Rod as well to round out the rest of the trainer cards. Shuffle 3 Pokemon and basic energy from your discard pile back into your deck. So you could opt to play something like Rescue Stretcher, but I think Super Rod is probably better in this particular type of deck, just because you go through a ton of energy in this deck, and if you're not careful, you can actually run out, especially if you're in a game where you do prize your Solgaleo Prism Star. Super Rod is going to be pretty valuable, so that's why we are playing this over Rescue Stretcher in this particular deck. And then for our energy cards, we're playing, of course, 9 basic metals, but we're also playing 2 copies of double colorless energy. Like I mentioned, Solgaleo GX does not discriminate against what types of energy it can accelerate, so we can sometimes just grab double colorless out of our deck to throw down on a Lele or a Magirna EX as well for some of our backup attackers. So it's definitely good in those situations, and we're also playing 1 copy of the new Super Boost energy as well. So it's one of these new Prism Star cards, like I mentioned earlier. You can only have 1 of the same name in your deck, but this one's pretty cool. It only provides a colorless energy, but if it's attached to a Stage 2 Pokemon, it provides every type of energy. So it's basically a rainbow energy, but if you have 3 or more Stage 2 Pokemon, it provides 4 energy at the same time. So sometimes this can be useful if you have 3 Stage 2s in play and you've used Sunsteel Strike a few times and you're out of energy. You can just attach 1 Super Boost and take yet another quick knockout without having to use Radiant Star or having to power up another Solgaleo manually. So Super Boost just to catch your opponent off guard and kind of, you know, ensure that you have a way to close out games a little bit easier as well. So yeah guys, that is going to be the list that we're going to be trying out for Solgaleo GX, but let's head over to the battle portion of the video and we'll show you how this deck looks in action. Alright guys, so we did find ourselves a game here playing against, was it Phlegius 31? Looks like they're going to call it the coin flip. They have a Lugia coin, and it looks like a Squirtle deck box. I don't know if that really gives us any indication of what we're playing against. You know, there's not really many relevant Lugia cards. Similarly, there's not really a very relevant Blastoise or anything right now, so we'll have to see what we're going against here, but it might still be some sort of water-based deck. So here we are going to have to mulligan. You know, we have a ton of supporters, but no basics. So let's see, we have a Lele, and we do have a Cosmog to start with, so that's really good. Did not want to have to start with this Lele if possible, because now we can Lele for Bridget, you know, and start getting set up that way. So the moment of truth, what is our opponent playing? So again, if it is some sort of water-based deck, I think Greninja could be a safe bet. That's the only really relevant one, but here we see a Tapu Koko. Okay, so I'm guessing this is not going to be Greninja, or probably some water-based deck at all if I just had to guess. But here we're going to grab ourselves a Cosmo, and we do see Mr. Mime in the deck. That actually could be pretty relevant here if our opponent is playing Tapu Koko. Just because we are a little bit slow getting set up, so Mr. Mime could definitely help us out in this matchup. And just taking a peek through the deck, just trying to see what all is prized. Nothing too, nothing too crazy there from what it looks like. So we can just grab the Cosmog, and then we could play this Tapu Lele just to grab Bridget out of the deck and keep getting set up, ideally. So what we could do, we could actually save the Lele for a Skyla, but you know what? I think I'm going to get a little bit greedy, and just get some more bench Pokemon in play. We do have the Solgaleo GX, like I said, so we could have just, saved the Lele to grab Skylar for next turn to grab Rare Candy to evolve into Solgaleo GX. But really, I wanted to get this Mr. Mime in play, and had we used the Nest Ball Mr. Mime, we'd only have one Cosmog in play, so you know what? We're just going to get a little bit greedy and try to hit the Rare Candy on this next turn. So we're going to attach to the bench, and then we can just pass over to our opponent. So I'm really just curious what we're playing against. If we're seeing Tapu Koko, this could be a number of decks. Golisopod variants in the past have played this. Decidueye variants have played Tapu Koko, so a lot of potential things we could be seeing. Here we're going to see a Choice Band come down, and a Cynthia. So still nothing too revealing so far. So I'll have to see what they get off this Cynthia. So we see a Necrozma come down. Okay, so this could be some sort of spread deck. Okay, we see a Potown come down as well. Luckily we play 3 Field Blowers, so hopefully we can get rid of that pretty soon. I think we did have one prized, but you know, Potown is definitely going to be a card we want to get rid of. And here our opponent's just going for an Espeon EX, kind of threatening to de-evolve us. Alright, so what we can do is, let's just attach to... I guess we can attach to the active, that is fine with me. And here we're just going to end. You know, unfortunately we do have to refresh our opponent's hand, and but similarly we needed some more cards as well. But here we actually have a pretty good hand. Well, pretty good for this turn. For next turn, I'm not so sure. But what we can do is we can discard this Metal Energy and discard Guzma. And the reason I'm getting rid of that, even though we have so many rare candies, is we're going to have to burn a rare candy to evolve into the Solgaleo GX. And our opponent is threatening to de-evolve us with this Espeon since they played the Espeon so early. So I want to be able to save all of our rare candies to make sure that none of them kind of go to waste in this matchup. So here we can just use Ultra Road, getting Solgaleo in the active spot, and use Soul Burst GX to start getting our board set up. So even though we don't have a draw supporter really ready to go, we can kind of live off of our board for a few turns, and you know, we're gonna kind of be able to just be set up and take a couple prizes while we wait to draw into something else. So just trying to decide what energies do we want to put in play here. That seems okay to me, I guess. So let's get 2 on the active. Where do we put all of our energies? So we definitely want to put energy on that Cosmog. We could do... Then I guess we just attach the DCE to Lele. Oh wait, okay, I forgot we had another Metal Energy first. Okay, so kind of wish we had put that Metal Energy somewhere else. My bad, I thought I was attaching DCE there. So a little bit of a... I guess a misclick or something like that. Anyways, I think we're still fine. We can still take a knockout with Sunsteel Strike on the next turn, even if our opponent de-evolves us with this Espeon, so I'm really not too worried about that. So we're just going to draw for turn, and we have a Max Potion as well, which could be good against this deck. You know, they're aiming to spread lots of damage, so that could be good here. So we're just going to use Sunsteel Strike, and then take a knockout here on this Espeon EX. Alright, so getting 2 prizes. Hopefully we can get something good for next turn. We have a Magearna, which actually could be good in this matchup as well. You know, if our opponent does play like a Super Rod or a Rescue Stretcher to get this Espeon back, Magearna actually could prevent our Pokemon with Metal Energy from being de-evolved. So actually a card that could be useful here. And we do have an Ultra Ball, so we can get a Lele for next turn to grab another supporter and hop back into this game. Everyone's complaining the Handsome Rat's actually kind of a pain, so maybe it was a good thing I did attach the Metal Energy there. And luckily we have this Mr. Mime in play, otherwise this Tapu Koko would be putting on a ton of work against us with that Flying Flip attack. Normally it does 20 to everything, but because of that Mr. Mime, it's only doing damage to the active. And here we actually top deck a rare candy, so that's actually pretty good. We can... yeah, let's evolve into Cosmog. Or actually, you know what? Maybe we should have... Ultra Ball away the Solgaleo? Maybe so. It's a little unfortunate having to get rid of Max Potion here. So I think what I probably should have done actually is maybe just get rid of the Solgaleo, kept the Max Potion, that way we could have healed our active. So maybe that was a little bit of a misplay. We do play another Max Potion in the deck though, so hopefully that doesn't come back to bite us. But here, yeah, this is kind of a situation where discarding the Solgaleo GX would have been a little bit better here, just because we could have just Super Ride it back into the deck. But you know what, I still feel pretty okay about, you know, how we're doing. We're not really in any threat of being knocked out right now, so. But here we can just use Ultra Road to switch into this Lele, and then just use Energy Drive to soften up this Tapu Koko. It is a little unfortunate we do have to two-shot this Tapu Koko, but you know, you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes. So our opponent's looking like they're promoting Necrozma. Okay, I'm actually okay with that. I'm really not too worried about it. You know, Black Ray GX is normally a pretty good move. But again, thanks to Mr. Mime, it's not really that big of a deal here. Here, our opponent has a Tapu Lele as well. That's actually pretty interesting. That means they must be playing counter energy or something like that as well. That actually could be pretty bad for us. And this is actually a situation where I wish I had an extra bench space open, because I would love to get down Giurleo EX. That would prevent against this Tapu Lele. So, alright, what do we do? So, a couple things here. What do? We could attach... You know, actually, if we get super boost energy, we can actually take a knockout here on this Necrozma. So we have around 20 cards left in deck. We can maybe pull it off. Let's see what we can make happen. And we do draw into the super boost. That's actually pretty cool here. So what do? We could we can Field Blower. We can discard the Choice Band, and Potown seems okay to me. And there's a couple different targets for this. We can attach Super Boost to the Solgaleo GX, or actually, maybe what we could do is we can, if we attach it to the baby Solgaleo, then we can just, yeah, what we can do is we can attack with the baby Solgaleo GX using Fangs of the Sun to take a knockout, and then next turn we can actually use double Ultra Road to put it back in the active spot and knock out whatever else they have. That way we don't have to discard the Super Boost energy like we would have to if we use the Solgaleo GX. But here we get Solgaleo Prism Star off a prize. That's actually a pretty good prize to get. Could be useful at some point in this matchup. And here opponent has the Sudowoodo. That's actually kind of annoying here. So they have the counter energy ready to go, so that's a little bit unfortunate for us. Now here we're in kind of a weird spot, because I kind of want to bench this Solgaleo Prism Star, but at the same time, I would like to get Giurleo EX in play as well. So, like, kind of my dilemma is I want to, you know, accelerate energy and get these other Solgaleos powered up again, but at the same time, I want to prevent against Tapu Lele from rearranging our damage counters. So it's like, as long as we hit a max potion, honestly, I think we're okay. And we whiffed the max potion. That's actually a little bit bad here. Well, we whiffed the Giurleo anyway, so wouldn't have made a big difference had we kept the bench space open. So I was really hoping to hit our other max potion. That way we could have healed off some of this damage. That way our opponent can't, you know, have as much damage to move around with that Giurleo if they choose to. Here we're just going to use Radiant Star, attaching some of our metal energy. We can actually just put it on the active. I think that could be good here. Just because our opponent doesn't really have a good way of knocking us out. Sudowoodo can't copy Radiant Star. Well, they can, but they're not going to get any benefit from it. And everything else doesn't really have a way of knocking... Oh, Cobalion, that actually... I may have spoke too soon. Cobalion actually can knock us out. When actually, too, if they have another counter energy, actually Tapu Lele could move... Okay, so actually this might have been a bad play on my part. So yeah, what they can do is they can actually move all of those damage counters to the Solgaleo Prism Star. Now, the only good thing about that, well, we'll have to see where our opponent's going to put these damage counters, but the only good thing about that is that you know, they're only going to get one prize. They have to basically move all of this damage that they have in play right now to the Solgaleo Prism Star, or the bulk of it, I should say, to take a knockout on it, but only gives up one prize. But the downside is that it's going to be a ton of energy hitting the discard pile after they do this. So maybe we should have kept an energy in play on another Pokemon and then just use Cynthia to try to hit the other metal energy we need for next turn. So I'm not really sure there. It's a kind of a weird deck to play against. You know, I really don't know what our opponent has in this list and stuff, so they definitely have the element of surprise here, really not knowing how I should be playing exactly. Maybe I should just, in general, be playing more conservatively in this matchup, since I don't know what I'm going to be playing against. So we'll have to see. Alright, so yeah, like I said, it's taking them a ton of damage to move to the Solgaleo Prism Star if they do want to knock it out. The Solgaleo GX on the bench had a ton of damage already on it previously, so they are, you know, having to basically heal our GXs in order to knock out this one prize attacker. And they're kind of doing the smart thing. It looks like they're leaving a bunch of damage counters on Tapu Lele. Since that looks to be my only other attacker, I can really power up in the next turn, or really attack with in the next turn. Um, so I guess, man, this is rough. Alrighty, so opponent's just gonna move some damage over to Mr. Mime. Actually, that could be pretty good for them as well. And I'm actually okay if they do that though, just because not only is that going to keep them at an odd amount of prizes, forcing them into a 7-prize game, but also we can take a knockout with this Solgaleo GX if we can find ourselves our other double colorless energy that's left in the deck. Now, the only downside to that is that that will open us up to like a counter energy play from Cobalion. That could be pretty bad, but our opponent, I think, already has 2 counter energies that they've gone through, and I think they have another in the discard pile. So I'm thinking, you know, we might be in an okay spot even if they do this. Alrighty, so they are going to get 2 prizes here. Okay, never mind. They have a double colorless energy in the discard, so they actually have 2 counter energies left, which is a little bit scary for us. So unfortunately, we're just going to have to try to manually power up stuff for a few turns. And here we can get down the Cosmog if we choose to. Thin it out of our deck. We still have a rare candy. We have Cosmoem left, so we can evolve this thing and prevent it from being knocked out at some point as well. And actually, this is pretty good. We hit some... we hit a super odd, so we can get back some of our energy, which we just lost when they knocked out our Prism Star, so we definitely want that. We could also potentially get this Magearna in play as well, but I don't think we even need the Magearna at this point because we're going to be taking a knockout on this Tapu Lele. And another few things we could go for. We could go for a Mr. Mime, but I feel like at this point all we need is, because that could prevent if they go for like a spread route with Tapu Koko. But actually, maybe we just get back. Yeah, I think I like this. We'll do this. The Baby Solgaleo and 2 energy, because we can actually use the Baby Solgaleo to take a knockout on that benched Tapu Koko, because its first attack spreads 50 somewhere for 2 energy. So we don't have a whole lot of ways of powering up, you know, a bunch of Solgaleo GXs very quickly. So we might be able to just use that to take our last knockout. So unfortunately, we do have to waste the double colorless energy here, but you know what? We're going to be going down to 1 prize. Hopefully, we just don't get end. That would be like the worst thing that could happen to us. And we hit a Field Blower. Not sure how good that is at this point. Our opponent has plenty of free retreat Pokemon, so getting rid of that Floatstone on their Sudowoodo doesn't seem like a big deal to me. So let's see how they're going to respond here. They could use Energy Drive on with their own Sudowoodo there, using that Watch and Learn attacks up the 2040, 60, 120. So they wouldn't be able to knock us out with Sudowoodo, so that is the good thing. But here they're going to Sycamore. That's actually kind of scary because they're going to go through a lot of their deck. And if they can take a knockout here and then have Guzman next turn, I think they can probably just beat us. Assuming if they get counter energy for Cobalion and all that type of stuff. Just because next turn, if they do find, well, this turn, if they do find the counter energy knocks out the Cobalion, we don't really have a way of dealing with that. So here they get a Fairy Energy off the Energy Lotto. Luckily, that is not a counter energy. That's what we want to see here. But, you know, they do have the Sycamore, so they can keep digging through their deck, unfortunately. Here they have another Energy Lotto. That's pretty scary. What did they hit? They find the counter energy. So that's a little bit unfortunate. So Cobalion is definitely going to take a knockout here, and they're going to Sycamore. So I don't think our opponent's played a single Guzman yet. I would be extremely surprised if they didn't have one in hand after taking a knockout here. But the only good thing that we have going for us is that, yeah, they don't have Guzma yet, or they haven't played one yet, luckily. Or, well, luckily for them, I should say. Alrighty, so we can just Field Blower, and I guess actually at this point, I think it's actually fine just to attach to the Solgaleo GX because there's literally no way they can knock us out in one hit. Like, even if they have like Choice Band Kukui or something like that, I don't think this can even knock us out. So here we're just going to attach to the active Solgaleo. And, okay, so what we can do is we can at least play down our hand a good bit just in case of an N or something like that. because we just need a metal energy. If our opponent doesn't win on this turn, all we need is a metal energy to win here. So we're just going to grab the Solgaleo out of our deck. And yeah, so all we need is just metal energy. Actually, my mistake. Actually, what we probably should have done is ultra rotated into the other Solgaleo GX to wall a hit in case we get hit with an end. That actually is probably what we should do here. And here, opponent, it looks like they're just going to go for a flying flip. So as long as we don't get end, we're actually in a good spot to win right now. So let's see, they are going to use Puzzle of Time, so really curious at what they're going to try to get here with Puzzle of Time. I'm assuming they're playing the double puzzle to get 2 cards out of their discard pile. So maybe just grabbing, you know, whatever they need for next turn to seal up the game. Just taking a peek what all we've used. So we have, what, 4 metal in the discard, 2 in the active, and 2 in hand, so that's 8 right there. So we should have 1 more left in deck as well. So even if, yeah, so actually if we get end, we're kind of in a bad spot here. So if opponent gets down another Potown, I'm fine with that. Doesn't really make much of a difference to me. And so here we're going to see a special charge. That seems good from our opponent. If our opponent has an end, we're going to be in a bad spot, I do think, here. And we're going to see another Puzzle of Time come down. And I'm curious if they had the quad puzzle this turn. If they had all 4 puzzles, that's crazy. Okay, so yeah, they have the Choice Band and Ultra Ball, so it looks like they're just... Yeah, I'm curious what they're going to try to get here. Choice Band down on the other Tapu Koko. It's fine to me, I guess. Yeah, it looks like they're just trying to thin cards out of their deck to maybe draw into what they need for next turn. Here they have Tapu Lele. That actually could be pretty bad for us. If they play the N, we're going to be in bad shape. So here, our opponent's going to go for the Lele. They really need a Guzma or an N here. One or the other. Either one of those will be good. So here, our opponent has the N, which is unfortunate. But you know, we have 3 outs to an energy, so we just need to draw one of them, and we'll be good. And the card we draw is an energy, so we can actually just take the game here. Since our opponent did not have a Guzma. I don't even know if they play Guzma in this list, actually, but here what we can do is, you know, just attach this metal energy and then use Sunsteel Strike to knock out this Tapu Koko to finish the game here. So really close game against the spread deck. You know, a lot of the time in the matchup, I had no idea what to expect from our opponent. All of the counter energy Pokemon definitely kind of threw me off. But you know what? That was a pretty good game. Let's head it over to another one and see if we can see what we can make happen again. So here, our opponent has a Tapu Koko and a Tapu Koko deck box and Decidueye coin. So I feel like a Decidueye deck is kind of a safe bet since Koko is normally played in Decidueye. But here, unfortunately, we have to start with Lele, but we do open with Bridget in hand, so that's kind of the upside to that. So let's see what our opponent is playing. Tapu Koko sleeves as well. Okay, so it is going to be some sort of Decidueye deck. We see a Alolan Vulpix. That's actually not a Pokemon we've seen in a while in Decidueye decks, I feel like. So maybe this is the Ninetales version. Not sure if they're playing the Vulpix just for the beacon attack or if they're actually playing Alolan Ninetales and Alolan Ninetales GX as well. So there's taken a peek through our deck. Didn't look like anything too, you know, crazy was prized there. So what we can do is we can just attach it to a Lele. That's fine with me. And you know, next turn we have Cynthia ready to go. We could play Sycamore, but Max Potion is definitely going to be a big card in this matchup, I think. So our opponent's going to go for a Pokemon Fan Club. That's actually pretty interesting. So maybe they play some EXs in this deck as well. You know, typically Bridget is just the better support to play, but so like I said, that kind of makes me think they're playing some sort of EXs in this deck that they want the flexibility of getting out with Fan Club. So I think Espeon EX is probably a safe bet. But beyond that, I really wouldn't know what else they could be playing here. But here they're just going to Beacon after getting the second Rowlet and Zorua set up. I'm fine with that. So here they're going to go for a Dartrix and Zoroark GX. So seems okay to me. And we have a Heavy Ball, so we can at least grab a Cosmoem and evolve one of our other Cosmogs. But hopefully we can evolve the remaining Cosmog into a Solgaleo GX this turn and use Solburst GX. So let's do that. And we'll just play Cynthia here. And okay, so we actually... Yeah, this is fine with me. We can discard the 2 Metal Energies. Unfortunately, we don't have a supporter for next turn, but you know what? We can kind of survive off of our board once we've used Soul Burst GX anyways. So we have a few turns where we can kind of play around with the energy that we have. So we can Ultra Rogue, we can put Solgaleo GX in the active spot, and then we can use Soul Burst GX. We could bench the Solgaleo Prism Star, but honestly, I'm really not worried about an end or anything like that. I would actually probably prefer for our opponent end us, so I won't complain if that's what happens. So here, I might, just trying to think. Did we get the second double colorless energy? I wish we had another metal energy in the deck, but here, I think I'm just going to get the 4, that's fine with me. And, oh man, I did it again. I did the same thing I did last game. I thought I was attaching metal energy, or I'm sorry, double colorless energy, but I ended up attaching a metal to Tapu Lele. So, honestly, big misplay there, or misclick, whatever you want to call it. Should have definitely got the energy on Cosmoem to start setting up another Solgaleo for at some point. So, that's just one of the drawbacks of PTCGO in situations like this, as opposed to real life cards. But nevertheless, you know, we have a Solgaleo GX ready to go. We have Tapu Lele, so we can knock out this Vulpix as well if we have to. We have Solgaleo Prism Star in hand, so we can just get that energy back onto the field if that Tapu Lele does get knocked out as well. So here, our opponent's just going to go for a Beacon grabbing, a Vulpix, and a Decidueye. I'm fine with that. And here we can play the Field Blower, I guess. Taking away the free retreat option from our opponent. But here, let's just Ultra Road. We can promote this Tapu Lele. And we'll just... Actually... Yeah, I guess we'll do that. That's fine. Also, we probably should have put the Metal Energy on the Solgaleo Prism Star first. But actually, maybe... Yeah, we probably should have done that just in case of an N or something like that. But it's probably fine for the moment. So I do apologize about a couple little subtle little misplays in this one, guys. But overall, though, you know, we didn't get end here, so it wound up not being too impactful. But you know, we still really don't want to miss an attachment if you don't have to. So your opponent's going to discard a Field Blower with trade, draw a couple extra cards. So we're starting to get some Decidueyes in play, which can be a little bit scary for us. We actually don't have a way of knocking out Decidueyes in one hit, so I'm just curious how we're going to go about this match. But I think our win condition is we knock out Zoroark, Tapu Lele, and Vulpix. That can be our remaining 5 prizes. Or if they don't knock out this Rowlet, that's also another way we can take our remaining prizes. Okay, so... yeah, I think we just, Do we have any energy? We have 2 energy in the discard pile. I might save the Super Rod just in case of something else getting knocked out. So I guess we'll bench the Cosmog, I guess. I really don't want our opponent to knock out this Cosmoem. I'd rather kind of bait them into knocking out this Cosmog if at all possible. So here, I think we probably get down... Well, actually, no, if our opponent has like a Guzma with Riotous Beating and 2 Feather Arrows on our Solgaleo Prism Star, it could get knocked out. So I'm actually a little scared of attaching there just because of that. Maybe it's a little bit of an irrational like fear I have there, but just going to play it a little bit safe here. That, like I said, it might be a misplay, but I'm just going to play it safe and see what happens. But here our opponent has the Baby Alolan Ninetales. That's actually pretty annoying for us because we don't really have an efficient way of knocking that thing out right now. We do have Solgaleo Prism Star, so we can actually just power that thing up if we choose to. And here our opponent's spreading some more damage with Feather Arrow. I'm actually okay with that. The fact that they're not targeting down this Solgaleo kind of makes me happy here. And okay, this is actually pretty good. We have a Guzma, so we can actually take a knockout on Zoroark. I think I like that here. So, or we could take a knockout on Leo, but I think taking away their draw support and like debatably their best attacker here is going to be the way to go. And we do have Solgaleo Prism Star ready to go for next turn if we do need to, you know, start powering up a non-GX or non-EX to deal with this Ninetales as well. So here we get Ultra Ball and Ultra Ball. So if they don't knock out this Cosmoem, we can actually just evolve into another Solgaleo GX and, you know, keep that thing safe for at some point. Or if our opponent does knock something out, actually just going for... Oh, actually, yeah, that might be best if we can bait them into knocking something out. We can Ultra Ball for our other Lele to grab Guzma to knock out their Lele for the game here. So I actually kind of like that. So yeah, that seems pretty good. But here, opponent's going to go for the Guzma, actually targeting down this Solgaleo, and I'm actually kind of okay with that at this point. Like I said, all we need is Guzma now to win the game. So if they want to target this thing down, you know, be my guest. I actually won't complain at this point. You know, honestly, all we need to get off is one Radiant Star, and we're going to be good to go. So here, our opponent is starting to target down this Ultra Prism Star. So putting 40 on it, then we might see a Razor Leaf hitting it as well. Okay, so next turn, all you have to do is Feather Arrow it again twice, and they can knock it out. But here, actually, what I can do is... So there's a couple things we can do. We could go for a Max Potion or Guzma. We could just grab Guzma for next turn. That kind of opens us up to N. But I feel like our opponent's going to knock out one of our Pokemon no matter what. So at least if we go for... Because if our opponent ends us away and knocks out this Solgaleo, that would be a little bit more annoying. I'm basically just hoping our opponent doesn't have N. So I think the more high risk, high reward play would just be going for the Guzma and sitting on it for next turn. But, you know, our opponent might be thirsty to take some prizes and might just knock out this Cosmo on the bench or a Cosmog or something like that. So I'm actually fine just doing this sitting back, using Radiant Star for a little bit. You know, even if our opponent wants to, you know, target down this Solgaleo, knock it out, I don't care about that. And actually, we're just going to load up this Lele and just threaten like a huge Lele. Because if our opponent does that, then, you know, we can just, you know, Super Rod it back in the deck and Ultra Ball it back out, even if our other Lele is prized. But I think our other one is in the deck from what I just saw. But building up a big Lele doesn't seem that bad either. So here, our opponent's just going to retreat into Ninetales. That's fine with me. It looks like they're going to use Feather Arrow. Just kind of wall behind that thing, take some prizes. Again, I'm fine with that. All we need is the Tapu Lele GX out of the deck, and we can just win the game that way. Okay, but here it looks like they're spreading their damage around a little bit. Slightly annoying, but, you know, I'm fine with actually just biding my time and waiting for another... you know, just waiting for them to take a knockout and free up a bench spot here. I don't know if we have any other Metal Energy. Okay, we do have one in the discard pile. We can use Radiant Star to get that out if we choose to. So, and just keep threatening like a huge Lele or something like that. So I think that's fine, because even if our opponent decides to like Guzma up our Lele and use their own, we just have Solgaleo GX ready to go for next turn. But I guess this is fine too. I think it really doesn't matter at this point, the energy on our Tapu Lele. Okay, our opponent's going to get out yet another Decidueye. So they can definitely take a knockout on one of these bench Pokemon this turn. I'm just, like I said, I'm fine just biding my time, waiting for him to knock something out, freeing up that bench spot, and we can just get Guzma. So like I said, we probably could have actually gotten the Guzma out with Skyla, but like I said, if our opponent did have the N, ending our Guzma away and putting us at a 2-card hand and knocking out our Solgaleo, that could have been kind of annoying actually. But here, our opponent's going to take a knockout, and I'm cool with that because we can just Ultra Ball for Lele and get Guzma. So, like I said, I do think it is in the deck. I believe I saw it in there. So that would be the only thing that could probably go wrong for us at this point. But I'm pretty sure we have the game after that. Our opponent does have 3 Decidueyes out, which is pretty scary, but I think we're just too far ahead at this point to really be that scared of them now. So just over to us, and okay, so yep, we can just Ultra Ball away. I'll get rid of Ultra Ball and Super Rod, don't really need that at this point. And yes, we do have Lele, and Guzma is in the deck, so what we can do is we can just bench this Lele, use that Wonder Tag ability, and then we can grab Guzma to pick off that Tapu Lele GX our opponent has sitting over there on their bench with Solgaleo GX. So bring up that Lele, give me that thing, give me them last 2 prizes, and we'll just use Sunsteel Strike here to finish taking a knockout and win this game against Decidueye. So 230, taking the last knockout, and we did have another Max Potion prize. That could have been bad if our opponent had gotten ahead a little bit earlier, but anyways, we won the game, so not too relevant at this point. But yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed this look at Solgaleo GX now that it has some new cards from Ultra Prism to work with. Solgaleo, like I've mentioned before, has been one of my favorite cards in the past, and I'm really happy to see that it's got some new partners to potentially work with. So we'll have to see how it does going forward, but definitely a deck that I think that got a little bit better with this most recent set. But as usual guys, feel free to like and subscribe, and if you can support this channel by becoming a patron over at patreon.com/rarecandytcg or by picking up something from our online store at rarecandytcg.com, it would mean a lot. But with that, I appreciate you watching, and we'll see you for the next one.